You're listening to The Veteran's Voice, presented by USAA in partnership with Optum, Medicare Mentors, Colorado Computer Support, and the WireNut Home Services.
Welcome to episode 5 of Cybersecurity Heads Up. Blake, do you count 5?
Is it 5?
It's got to be at least 5.
I don't know. I thought it's been a few of them. So
it's been a few.
We'll have to go back and then we can
It's been a few.
Yes.
I'm Ted Robertson. You're listening to Blake Schwank. Blake is the Veterans Voice technology partner and provides a lot of the technology that helps get our signal from where we are to all of you. Also, Blake, you got a pretty good size footprint out there on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, where you and Curtis are doing all kinds of videos. Today's one of those days where we get to talk about subjects like that. We're going to meet somebody new today, Terry Bradley, who is a USAFA grad, class of 1998, years active duty, 6 years reserved, got out as a major, and now owns a company called Mile High Cyber. What's on the table to talk about today, you guys?
Well, we were chatting a little bit because Terry and I both mainly do business support, and so but what we were chatting about for your audience, he was mentioning some information put out from the NSA to help people keep their home networks together. But Terry and I have worked together, gosh, I don't know, several 3, 4, 5 years, something like that. He doesn't work for us, but he partners with some of our clients and with companies like Phil Long Ford, taking care of their cybersecurity, helping them implement better cybersecurity for their enterprises. We found out that, we like helping each other out. We both have good businesses, and we're very complementary to each other. So our company, we do cybersecurity, but not to the level that he does. And his company does great cybersecurity and helping secure businesses, and needs teams like ours to do the implementation of all of those tools and run the networks.
Two veterans coming together to do great things in the business community. Terry, welcome to Cybersecurity Heads Up.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. So I'm going to let you and Blake have at it, because this is 10 tips to keep your home network secure.
Yeah, and Terry pointed this article out to me. So what did the NSA put out there, Terry?
Well, it's unusual that the NSA wades into the home user space. Usually they're focusing on government networks and big enterprises. But recently in February, they put out a guide to, it's called Best Practices for Securing Your Home Network.
Well, real quick though, what's the NSA's mission?
So the NSA has a dual mission. They do foreign intelligence collection for the U.S. military, for the Pentagon. And then they also have a second mission to do information security, information assurance for the U.S. government, primarily the Department of Defense. So this is more on the defensive side of their mission.
Right. And then you also have CISA, but where's CISA in there in relation to NSA?
Yeah, I think CISA is sort of similar to NSA's information security assurance mission, but they're broader than just the Department of Defense. So they're looking at civilian government agencies and trying to secure computer networks across the whole U.S. government.
Yeah, well, I mean that's kind of interesting then that the NSA would come out to home users, because I always thought that they were big international, governmental level security agency.
Yeah, I think they see that there's a need, and the adversary, in targeting military members and targeting DoD organizations, they don't see the boundary between the on-premise military network and the home network. They're going after information, and sometimes those home networks could be stepping stones to get to the valuable intelligence they're trying to collect.
Oh yeah, because if they hit the right home, then they can turn around and use that home then to penetrate back to a government network.
Right, so. And surveys show that most adults reuse passwords. So if they can get into your home network and get all your passwords, good chance they're going to get some of those work or maybe military passwords that you shouldn't be reusing, but it's your favorite password and you've been using it for so long.
Are you saying there might be some general there that his work login is the same as his maybe AOL login?
I'm just saying it could happen.
So what do they tell us to do, Terry?
Well, these are some really basic recommendations, and probably 9 out of 10 users will say, "Oh, I'm already doing these." But it's just good to, I think, develop the doctrine and put it on the record. They're basic recommendations like keeping your operating system up to date. Go ahead and retire that Windows XP box and spend a few dollars and get the new Windows 11 operating system. Updating your router. You've got this cable modem or DSL router, which runs software, and that software needs to be updated from time to time. So log into that admin interface and update your software. Making sure you're using the latest encryption for your wireless network. Pretty much everyone has wireless networks at home, but you can't use the old encryption standards and think you're going to be secure. So, get on WPA2, WPA3.
And then change your password once in a while on those.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't hurt, related to that, they recommend having a segmented wireless network. So having a separate network for your family and your people who live in your house, separate from guests that you allow to access the internet. So most modern routers allow you to set up a guest network that's completely isolated from your home network. You think about all the people that you've given your Wi-Fi password to over the years, house guests or people who just needed to check the internet. Well, some of those people gave it to some of their friends, and pretty soon, there's a multitude of people who have access to your printers and maybe your network attached storage devices at home. And so it's a good idea to keep that segmented with a separate guest network.
Yeah. Well, and the other interesting thing on that is on mine, I actually have an IoT network. So an Internet of Things, because all of these, there's a lot of news stories out there about Internet of Things being hacked, whether it's, wireless cameras or, we have the lights outside our house that are all on this network, but it also means I can set that completely separate than my home network. And then I don't have to change the password on 30 lights around my house if something changes. It reduces that risk. And if one of those ends up getting breached, then they can't get all my home and work stuff on the other network at home.
Yeah, there's a famous anecdote of a casino in Las Vegas that had their online aquarium system hacked. And turns out that online aquarium control system was on the same network as their critical business systems and databases, and it was the beginning of a big data breach. So, yeah, those IoT devices, the baby monitors, the security cams, all the different things that we put on our network. Some of them are not really up to snuff security-wise. Some people joke, call the Internet of Things the Internet of unpatchable trash.
Nice. Well, you mentioned baby monitors. That's a scary one too, of making sure that stuff is secure and your network is secure, because I don't know how often it happens, but every time I read a story about somebody's indoor camera or baby monitor getting hacked, and your neighbors are watching you, or somebody, the internet makes it a very small world, right? So there's no difference if it's your neighbor or somebody in Russia. They can all log into your camera just as easily.
Yeah, it's surprising, when people do scans of the internet from time to time to see what devices are just out there available for anyone to connect to. There's a lot of these devices that people don't expect to be exposed, but because they've wanted to access their home network remotely, they've opened up their firewall to the entire world. And that's kind of the services that my company provides, is doing those kind of checks to make sure that you haven't done that, because it's pretty easy when you got the power of the digital age in your hands, and you're like, hey, I can get to this device now from somewhere else, and maybe somebody else can too.
Yeah, well, that was a big thing during COVID, and Ted and I've talked about this before. I think is people left their offices and they had some guy punch holes in their firewall so that they could go home, avoid COVID, but still continue to work in the office. And there's a lot of that still out there. So definitely also, if you have a business, make sure you've locked it back down after hurriedly opening stuff up.
Indeed.
What's next on our list?
Well, they also mentioned limiting the use of the administrator account. In the workplace, it's pretty common practice to have a limited user account that doesn't have administrator privileges. They recommend, even when you're at home, operating with a limited user account and keep a separate account for doing software installs and administrative type activities.
Yeah, no, that's great. So don't just, once you log into unbox your computer, then go in and set up a separate user for you and your kids.
Yeah. And the other thing they recommend, and this is kind of surprising, but they recommend scheduling frequent device reboots. It's probably a little known fact that a lot of malware for mobile devices like Apple iPhones or Android devices cannot survive a reboot. And so one of the recommendations the NSA is telling people to do is frequently reboot their systems. Now, that doesn't mean like every 5 minutes, but sometimes when I talk to people about a problem they're having with their phone, I'll say, when was the last time you rebooted it? And they look at me like, what do you mean? I mean, they never rebooted.
When's the last time you rebooted your phone, Ted?
I do it. I would say out of 7 days in a week, I do it about 5 days.
Oh, really?
Once every, about 5 times a week.
I don't do it very often. I did had to reboot my wife's, I think yesterday, because, Outlook was doing something very, very strange. And so, she wasn't, it just is, they start to have problems.
I've got this odd thing where my phone and my router at home, my Wi-Fi router, don't always play well together. And a couple of other little bugs that happen that are kind of consistent. They don't seem to be dangerous but they are annoying. And I find that when I reboot, problem solved. And there's even occasions when I try to get a text out and it takes me multiple tries. And as much as I've researched that on the net, it's really hard for people to come up with one single answer that makes that better. But I find if I reboot, it cures that problem for a while. And sometimes it's as simple as two separate devices trying to talk to each other and not playing well. Samsung versus iPhone, Google phone versus iPhone, Android versus iPhone. There's a few things like that I found when I use my iPhone.
Yeah.
So for me, it's glitch
glitch control. Yeah.
Yeah. Glitch control. Yeah.
I do that actually, Terry, on my home network. I have a firewall. I have my Comcast modem. I've got multiple access points, and they all go down, power over Ethernet to the basement. So I've got a scheduled reboot. More Internet of Things, but it will bounce my entire network while we're sleeping, so we don't know, and it keeps it running smoothly.
Yeah, it's a good idea. This list is quite long, and so I recommend if listeners want to get the full guidance that the NSA has put out, they go to search engine and look up best practices for securing your home network. NSA. But one final thing that they recommend is to be very careful on social media. A lot of the cyber attacks, especially geared towards consumers and home users, are coming through social media. Scams impersonating government agencies, scams impersonating, I saw one yesterday, the utility company, just all kinds of scams to try to trick you out of money, to make you concerned that your account is going to be shut down. And a lot of the times these come through social media. They're able to find out who your friends are and leverage that trust that you have in other people. And you say, well, this is, someone I know or association that I belong to. I can trust this information. But a lot of these scams are coming through social media. So I'd be very, very wary of those.
Yeah, no, that's great information, Terry. And I think the other thing on social media that I'm aware of when from a security standpoint is from the early days of the Army, OPSEC, operational security, was drilled into me. And so I'm always amazed by people that leave their house, not only go, somewhere else, but they go halfway around the world, and they're in Paris posting selfies all day long in real time, so that anybody that wants to rob their house or go do anything, impersonate them, could go do it. And not all of those 1,000 people that you're friends with on Facebook that are part of your group have your best interest in mind. So, or it could be somebody's boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, that then wants to go take advantage of you. So I think making sure we're secure. So I appreciate the information in that article. I think it's the weight that's provided by it coming from the NSA seems like it really emphasizes the criticality of this.
So, Terry, a quick question for you. I take it we can link to that article and maybe even convert it to a PDF and post it in the podcast post and make it available for people to download?
Yes, absolutely.
Then let's do that. And just one-stop shop. Don't have to go away to get it. Just you're listening to this podcast, just scroll down. You'll see the link, and you can download it right off of our podcast site.
Yeah.
How's that sound?
No, that sounds great. It's probably already in a PDF. Looks like it, right? So we can send it off, send everybody there to read up on it. So, and we do this kind of stuff every week, these kind of tips with you every couple of weeks on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. We're doing it every Saturday, doing our Cyber Saturday, so people can stay on top of things there.
Yeah, and it's always fun to see where you're going to do one of those from next. I've seen you do them in Palmer Park and in the middle of the country with your dad. That's Montana.
Yeah.
One of the, I call that heaven, actually. Yeah. Terry, do you know where his dad lives?
I saw that he did that Cyber Saturday up from Montana, but no, I don't know where.
Yeah,
Oh,
Polson,
man.
Montana, on the shores of Flathead Lake, which is in between Missoula and Kalispell.
Kayaking and fishing and wading and swimming and all the things you can do in water.
Yeah, and so it's nice to get up there. It's a beautiful place to go get away.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
It's a fun time. We've definitely been blessed. Grandparents bought a place up there in the '60s when my grandfather was the athletic director at the University of Montana.
So Cyber Saturdays come from all kinds of interesting places when you're doing all kinds of interesting things. I find that very entertaining. Then Mr. Curtis likes to do his tech tips on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Also very valuable stuff.
Yeah, basic tech tips. How do you change your ribbon on your Outlook, or how do you just basic tips for everybody?
Yeah,
little easily digestible 1-2 minutes. So quick shorts.
So Terry, I'm very fortunate to live next door to a guy who is in the same space you are. He's a IT engineer. Does a lot of penetration testing and things like that. He's the kind of guy who's just like you. You get hired by your company and you walk through the halls, you drop USBs on the floor and you see who puts them in the computer, things like that. And he does that stuff. So I'm sort of conversant in this. If I am interested in, because we all have to carry cyber liability policies now, right? It's very expensive to have a cyber breach, especially if you're maintaining private information on people, credit card info, other kinds of data. You gotta be audited to see if you can pass for cybersecurity policies so you're eligible for coverage. I imagine that's in your wheelhouse as well. How do we contact you if we have an interest in learning more about those services?
Sure, you're right. Most cyber insurance policies, especially the renewals, which are getting longer and more complex to fill out, are asking questions like, have you had a third-party assessment of your security? Have you had a penetration test? How long does it take you to patch and update systems? So a lot of customers come to us to get that third-party cybersecurity assessment or a penetration test done. And you can find us on the internet at milehighcyber.com. If you search for Mile High Cyber, Google will send you right there. And you can always call me directly at 719-310-5454.
719-310-5454. That's Mr. Terry Bradley, Air Force Academy grad, class of 1990, 8 years, active duty, 6 years reservist, out as a major, Mile High Cyber owner, and a great business partner with Mr. Blake Schwank, protecting people's companies on the cybersecurity side from the bad guys.
Yes, sir.
Final thoughts as we close it out, Mr. Blake?
Final thoughts is, go through your home network and make sure you get rid of that old stuff. I know that XP computer still works. I've got a TRS-80 and an old Apple in my office that turn on. I can play games with them, but I'm not going to connect them to the internet. Right.
You would not collect your Timex Sinclair. You would not connect that to the internet.
and that 10-year-old modem down in the basement or router, that thing doesn't have the security that you need for today's threats. And so go through, I know it costs a little bit of money, but replace that stuff, because Microsoft has stopped sending out the security updates for the old operating systems, and you put yourself at great risk, because not only will they'll attack you, but then once they get in your computer, everybody's got their tax returns, that stuff, their social security number, birth certificates scanned and saved, their tax returns on their computer, and those are then wide open.
Yes, let's not unlock the patio doors to the bad guys. That's not a good thing.
Yes. Oh, and when you get rid of that old Windows XP computer, after you transfer all your data and you're sure it's all gone, do not just throw it in the dumpster or send it off to the pawn shop. Destroy that hard drive, and you can take it to someplace like Blue Star recyclers, and they'll chew it up for you. Or you can just take a hammer to it or take it to the range, but that's not good for the environment. So take a drill to it.
It's good for the soul, though. Terry Bradley, owner of Mile High Cyber, thank you for being with us here on Cybersecurity Heads Up this morning. We think it's episode 5, but it's episode, we've done a few.
We'll go count them up, and then next time we can apply an episode number to it.
I'm all there. All there. Mr. Blake Schwank, the owner of Colorado Computer Support, the Veterans Voice exclusive technology partner. We can't thank you enough for your support and popping in here. We'll have you back in a couple of weeks from now.
Great. Thank you for everything you guys do.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Veterans, you can improve your ability to find jobs with your free year of LinkedIn Premium. Sign up at socialimpact.linkedin.com.
You're listening to The Veterans Voice, presented by USAA in partnership with Optum, Medicare Mentors, Colorado Computer Support, and the WireNut Home Services.